I saw a demon, or something far worse than a demon. It stood inside my apartment, watching me breathe. And from that night on, I couldn't fall asleep for days. I rented apartment 3A for only a short stay. But I swear on my life, if I hadn't run when I did, I wouldn't be here telling this story. I came to the city at the beginning of the week, dragging a cheap suitcase and a backpack that had seen better days. I didn't know anyone here. I didn't have family. I didn't have friends. I just had a job offer and a start date. All I needed was a place to stay for a while. Somewhere temporary, somewhere cheap. That's how I found apartment 3A. The price should have bothered me. It was almost 40% cheaper than most of the other listings in the area. But when you're watching your savings slowly disappear and you're tired from traveling, cheap doesn't feel suspicious. It feels like a blessing. The building itself was old, but not in a charming, historic way. Just old in a tired, forgotten way. The kind of place that blends into the background of a city and never appears in any photos. The stairwell walls were stained a light yellow gray, and every step on the third floor complained with a soft wooden groan. My apartment door, labeled 3A with a faded metal number, creaked when I opened it for the first time. Inside, the air felt cooler than the hallway. There was a faint smell of dust and something else, an old dampness, like the place had once been wet and then dried too slowly. The apartment was small but functional. A narrow hallway, a single bedroom, a small living room with a worn-out couch, a tiny kitchen with outdated cabinets, a bathroom where the light flickered for a few seconds before it settled. Not nice, not terrible, just temporary. I checked every room out of habit, inside the wardrobe, under the bed, behind the shower curtain. I wasn't expecting to find anything, and I didn't. Still, the silence felt heavier than it should have. That first night, I boiled instant noodles, scrolled my phone until my eyes burned, and fell asleep, faster than I expected. Nothing happened. The second night was just as ordinary, and I came home, ate, showered, lay down, and slept. Nothing moved. Nothing whispered. Nothing stared. If I had left after those first 2 nights, I would have told people the apartment was fine. But I stayed. And by the third night, it wasn't fine anymore. On the third night, everything changed. It was close to 1 o'clock in the morning when I woke up to a sound in the hallway outside my door. Not a loud noise, nothing dramatic, just footsteps, slow, measured, too deliberate. My apartment was on the 3rd floor, and only 4 units existed on that level. It was rare for anyone to walk around that late. The corridor was usually completely silent once it got dark. What unsettled me wasn't the fact that someone was there. It was the way the footsteps behaved. They walked down the hall, one slow step at a time, and then they stopped, right outside my door. Not moving, not pacing, just standing there. I lay in bed, suddenly very awake, listening hard. I held my breath without meaning to. I waited for a knock, a key, a voice. Nothing. The silence on the other side of the door felt thick, too complete. Curiosity and fear pushed against each other in my chest. Eventually, curiosity won. I slipped quietly out of bed, patted across the floor, and leaned toward the peephole. Even before I looked, a part of me already wanted to step back. But I didn't. I pressed my eye to the tiny glass circle. I expected to see someone in the corridor, a drunk neighbor, a delivery person at the wrong door, anybody. But through the peephole, I saw nothing, not no person, nothing. Just a blurry, unfocused patch, as if something was pressed so close to the other side of the door that the peephole couldn't capture its shape at all. For a moment, I thought the glass was fogged. I wiped it once with my thumb, leaned in again. Still nothing. A flat, distorted blur. But the feeling of something standing there, separated from my face by just a few centimeters of wood, was so strong that I felt my skin crawl. I don't know how long I stood there. 10 seconds, 20, 30. Finally, I heard it. A slow step. Then another. The invisible presence moved away from my door, still out of sight, footsteps fading toward the far end of the hallway near the stairwell. I stayed there for a long time, staring through the peephole into the empty corridor, heart beating too fast. In the morning, I told myself it was nothing, just another tenant, just an odd angle, just a late night misunderstanding in a building I wasn't used to yet. But deep down, something had already started to feel wrong. Over the next days, nothing huge happened. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would justify calling the police or the landlord. Instead, it was small things. The kind of things you should be able to explain. One morning I woke up and noticed my pillow was turned the wrong way. I always sleep with the zipper facing the wall. It's a stupid little habit, but I'm consistent with it. That morning, the zipper was facing the door. I stared at it for a few seconds and then shrugged it off. People move when they sleep. Maybe I'd rolled over and twisted it without realizing it. The next morning, the blanket was folded neatly at the foot of the bed. Not thrown aside from a restless night. Not crumpled. Folded. Straight. I don't make my bed like that. I never have. A tight knot formed in my chest, but my brain fought to untie it. Maybe I did it half asleep. Maybe I got up during the night and forgot. Maybe I was more stressed than I thought. Later that day, when I came home from work, something else felt off. The key turned almost too smoothly in the lock. The lock itself felt slightly warm when I touched it. It could have been nothing. Metal holds heat. Maybe the sun had hit that side of the door earlier in the day. But my door faced an indoor hallway. There was no sunlight. I unlocked the door, pushed it open, and stood in the doorway for a moment. The apartment looked exactly the same as when I left. No drawers pulled open, no cabinet doors ajar, no things out of place. But it felt like someone had just been inside and stepped out of view 30 seconds before I arrived. I walked through each room slowly, checking closets again, checking under the bed again, checking the bathroom, even opening the kitchen cabinets as if I might find someone hiding there. Nothing. That night, I slept with the bedroom door half open so I could see the living room light spilling in. I told myself I was being paranoid. But the next morning when I woke up, the bedroom door was wide open. I clearly remembered leaving it halfway. The building was old, I told myself. Doors move with air currents. Locks heat up. Blankets shift. You can excuse anything when you're desperate to believe you're safe. 2 nights later, at around 10 o'clock at night, I got back to the building. The stairwell felt emptier than usual. Every sound I made, keys, footsteps, the soft thud of my bag on my hip, echoed longer than it should have. I turned onto the 3rd floor hallway and saw that the light at the far end was flickering, pulsing in a slow, unhealthy rhythm. By then, I had developed a small habit. Before going inside, I always checked the peephole from the outside. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to make sure no one was standing in my living room waiting for me. I walked up to my door and leaned in, one hand still on the strap of my bag. What I saw made my blood run cold. Through the fisheye distortion of the peephole, I could see my living room. I could see the couch. I could see the small table. I could see the far wall, and I could see a tall, dark shape standing right in the center of the room. It was facing the door, facing me. I couldn't make out any details. Just a vertical mass that was too tall to be normal and too still to be comfortable. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to move away from the door, but I couldn't. I just stood there, staring through the peephole. The shape did not move, not even a little. I blinked once, slowly, my eye pressing a little harder into the peephole. When my vision cleared, the shape was gone. The room was empty, no movement, no shadow, just the stillness of an unoccupied apartment. I stayed in the hallway for what felt like several minutes, listening, waiting for some sign of life behind the door. Finally, I forced myself to unlock it. I stepped inside and hit the light switch immediately. Everything was normal. The couch, the table, the wall, empty, still. But the air was warm again. That strange, low warmth that feels like body heat. I tried to sleep that night, but I couldn't. I lay awake, fully clothed, staring at the bedroom doorway as if something might appear there at any second. Nothing did. But the feeling stayed. On the night it finally revealed itself, I went to bed later than usual, sometime around 2 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't really trying to sleep. I was just lying there, staring into the dimness of the bedroom, trying to pretend my heart wasn't beating so hard. The apartment was quiet, unnaturally quiet. At that hour, I should have heard at least a distant car, a passing motorcycle, a pipe somewhere in the building, something. But there was nothing. Then I heard it. A soft creak like wood under a slow shift of weight, coming from the built-in wardrobe in the corner of the room. I didn't move at first. I told myself it was the building settling. Old wood, old hinges, old frame. But when I finally turned my head toward the sound, something was standing there. At first, my mind tried to shape it into a person. It looked roughly human, upright, 2 arms, a head, a torso. But the longer I stared, the less human it became. Its neck was too long. Not cartoonishly long, just wrong. Like the distance between its shoulders and jaw had been stretched slightly beyond what a human spine allows. Its head tilted to one side at an angle that made my stomach twist, as if it had been broken and then left that way. Its arms were worst of all. They hung too low and bent backward slightly at the elbows, as if someone had twisted them the wrong way and left them halfway through the motion. It was tall, much taller than me. Tall enough that its head brushed the shadow line near the ceiling, and it was completely still. Not breathing, not shaking, not swaying like a real person does when they try to stand perfectly still, just fixed there. Like a drawing or a mannequin someone forgot to remove. I should have screamed. I should have jumped up. I should have done something, but I didn't. I just lay there, frozen, staring. Then, slowly, it straightened its neck. There was no cracking sound, no dramatic movement, just a slow, smooth, boneless correction, until its head was upright and its face was aligned with mine. Even in the low light, I could see its features now. The jaw hung just a little too low, as if unhinged. The skin didn't look like skin, it looked like something stretched, pale and slightly translucent. And the eyes, there were no eyes. Just 2 deep, dark pits sunk too far into the skull, swallowing up whatever light reached them. I don't know if it had pupils. I just know that when it turned its head slightly, I felt its focus land on me. I stopped breathing. For a few seconds, nothing moved. The thing, me, the air, everything in the room felt held in place. Then, without warning, it wasn't in the corner anymore. There was no sound, no footsteps, no transition. One moment, it was across the room. The next, it was right beside my bed. Its face was only a few inches from mine now. I could feel a coldness radiating off of it, the way you feel the chill when you open a freezer door. Except this cold felt intentional, focused. Its head tilted again far too far to one side as it examined me. I didn't blink. I couldn't blink. Something touched my shoulder. It wasn't a full hand, it wasn't a grip, just the barest suggestion of fingers pressing down. Too light to be solid, too cold to be human. That touch broke the spell. I exploded out of bed, my body finally catching up to the terror my brain had been screaming about. I didn't think, I didn't plan, I just moved. I grabbed my phone from the small table next to the bed and ran. I didn't look back, not once. I sprinted through the living room, flung the door open, and bolted into the hallway, barefoot on the cold floor. I took the stairs down so fast I nearly fell. Every instinct I had was focused on one thing: get as far away from apartment 3A as possible. I didn't stop until I was outside the building, under the sick yellow-orange glow of the streetlights. I stood there, shaking, in the middle of the night in a city where I knew no one, breathing like I'd just escaped a burning house. Maybe I had. I never went back inside. It has been months since that night. I didn't go back for my stuff. Not the clothes, not the bag, not the documents, nothing. The landlord called me once, maybe 2 weeks later. He said they found my door unlocked, lights left on, things still inside. He asked what happened, why I left so suddenly, why I didn't take anything. I told him I saw someone in the apartment, that I didn't feel safe, that I couldn't stay. I didn't mention the neck or the arms or the eyes. He went quiet and then just said, "You should have told me earlier," and hung up. I don't know if he ever rented out 3A again. I don't want to know. Now I live somewhere much noisier, thin walls, loud neighbors, traffic outside my window. You'd think the constant sound would make it hard to sleep. It doesn't. Silence is what scares me now. I sleep with the lights on. I keep my bedroom door open so I can always see the hallway. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night convinced something is standing just out of view, in the corner or behind the open door or at the foot of the bed. Most nights, if I stare long enough, nothing happens. But there are times, on some nights, when everything goes quiet and the air feels slightly wrong. I swear I hear a faint creak, like weight shifting on old wood. And every now and then, right as I'm about to fall back asleep, I feel something cold brush my shoulder. And I remember that thing standing beside my bed in apartment 3A, leaning over me in the dark, watching me breathe. And I know, with a certainty that makes my chest hurt, that what I saw that night was not just in my head.